So League One had two new league leaders in the same weekend. That was Lincoln, and then it was Bradford, because Bradford beat Cardiff, George, by 3-1. What a result. The big result of the weekend, possibly the big result of the League One season so far.
Yeah, I'd say so. Bradford have bounced back incredibly impressively to the defeat against Doncaster a couple of weeks ago. They are now top of League One, 20 points from 9 games. It couldn't really have started much better for them. And they travelled here to a Cardiff side who up to this point were unbeaten in the league, who topped the league table themselves. And they were worthy winners with a brilliant first half performance in particular. The opening goal came from a brilliant strike from Tommy Lee from the edge of the box, from a corner. One of those that we all kind of dream about when they're standing on the edge of the box. When a corner comes, you're like, please, can just the headed clearance just bounce my way? This one did. And Lee finished it off brilliantly. One of those obvious penalties of all time. Next up, with Sarcevic being absolutely hacked down by Gabe Osho. And he dispatched the penalty with aplomb. The second half started in a similar vein with Northfield on the right-hand side, set clear and finishing well before Callum Robinson scored with 10 minutes or so to go to give Cardiff fans hope, but not really, because Bradford had won the game in the first hour or so. For Cardiff, there's no need to, I think, get overly concerned off the back of one defeat, which you expertly called on the betting show. I think we've been very complimentary about Cardiff for the most part. Some Cardiff fans didn't really like what you had to say about Cardiff in the betting show, but you were justified. I mean, it's important to remember that you can both think a team are very good, but also think that another team might be valued to beat them in the betting markets. Bradford obviously just continue to impress. Not a huge surprise maybe, given the way that Cardiff play and the youthful nature of their team, that they were going to get caught out by a side who were able to attack at pace, and that's what happened here.
They do, don't they? They do attack at pace. They combine
back to front very quickly.
Everyone knows where everyone's going to be at any given time. They've got movement, speed, technical ability. Very cool. I like with Lee, the thing that stood out to me was, since Cook went down injured on New Year's Day, we've talked so much about, at first, Poynton, Sarcevic, Patterson, and then this season, Humphreys and Swan and
Poynton again.
Neufeld and Poynton again. And it's like Lee's been there, I think, since the start of last season, and he hadn't really had his big moment yet. But he does play a fair bit. Alexander finds a role for him in kind of various different ways and occasions. And here he had his big moment as well. And teams who are doing what Bradford are doing at the moment, it always feels like they've just got so many players bought in and contributing, and that's what we saw with Lee's banger to put them ahead. Yeah,
Lee came off at half time, which I assume must have been injury related. But yeah, I mean, for Bradford in particular, sometimes when teams make a really fast start, it's thanks to maybe a favourable fixture lists. But you look at the teams they've played already this season. Their second game of the season was a win against Luton. They've already beaten Stockport. They have beaten Huddersfield, and now they're beating Cardiff. So, 4 of the favourites to be promoted, they've played them all and they've beaten them all. So, anyone who thinks that Bradford are a flash in the pan and are set to drift back down the league, I think might need to reevaluate how good they are.
Second, as we record, Stevenage. Those dark horses keep on galloping. They beat Exeter by 2-1. Went ahead through a lovely free kick from Harvey White into the top corner. Exeter equalised. It was a beautiful line-splitting pass from Sweeney to Niskanen. Ball across to McGuinness, who kind of did his best to miss that tap-in, but in it went. Stevenage's winner, an absolute beauty of a Phoenix Patterson cross, headed in at the back post by Roberts. And it's great to see Patterson getting a start here, or no, didn't get a start here, came off the bench here and getting a big contribution, in terms of Stevenage's attacking players. People like Kemp and Reed and Roberts, really established key attackers. And it always felt like that left wing position this season was the one up for grabs, if you like. And Chem Campbell, for the most part, has had the starts, with Patterson having to come off the bench, and Patterson having had 2 starts so far, but having his first big moment in the league here with a big assist. Just such a teasing cross that the Exeter backline and the goalkeeper couldn't really do much about. From Exeter point of view, I find this interesting in that I've been pretty down on them in most of their defeats so far. I think they've been comfortably second best. And particularly away from home, they've regularly not been laying a glove on their opposition. But this actually wasn't that. Caldwell managed to get them to play with much more attacking intent. They had more shots on target than any of their away games so far this season by miles. But on the other hand, they were much worse at the back, and Stevenage were able to get that winning goal. So, as ever, there is a kind of a balance to it. But not Exeter's worst performance of the season. Even so, losing narrowly to this Stevenage side, who've won 6 of their first 8 games, actually top of the table on PPG because they've played a game less than Bradford and have just the 1 point less. They've conceded 6 from their 8 games. They are as good as I sort of possibly thought they could be, and that's because they've got the consistency of Vale getting better for another season, like we see regularly with young managers like him. Johnny Jackson, another great example. Yet these guys aren't the finished article in their first or even their second season. They get better for the experience when they are allowed to do so, and they're in a good situation, and that's what he's got at Stevenage with so much support. Basically, just the vibes at this club are absolutely immaculate, and you can see that in the way that they play. Fantastic win for them, fantastic start to the season. Really very exciting stuff all round. And you could say the same for Lincoln City, George. They're the other just really eye-catching side. And there they are in third spot, briefly top of the table when they won the early game. And easily, for me, the most eye-catching performance and result of their season, beating Luton, comfy, 3-1.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think, unlike the Bradford analysis, you can, in terms of the teams that Lincoln have played, maybe the fixture list has been a bit kinder to them, and Luton kind of being the first obvious real test of a benchmark to see how their staying power is going to be. And they passed it. And the impressive thing for me here is, Michael Skabala is a manager who I think deserves a lot of credit. And I think with Lincoln City, maybe because of the run he went on when he first took over, and we've spoken about it before, there seems to be an assumption that Lincoln City should be a team that challenge for the top 6 rather than necessarily the budget or spend justifying that, and that's because they're a very well run club, and therefore they maybe steal a march on their rivals by being that and being sustainable in terms of the way that they operate, or more sustainable, I probably should say. But I love here that he's got Luton coming to town, who we know are a team with a lot of experience, a team with a lot of players who played the majority of their football in the Championship, a team who can cause massive issues from set pieces, but then they've got their own big lads. Sonny Bradley came here off the back of 3 goals in his last 3, and Skabala goes, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my 4 kind of quite big burly strikers. I'm going to play 2 of them up front, and James Collins and Freddie Draper. I'm going to play the other 2 on the wing. I'm going to play Rob Street on the right. I'm going to play Ben House on the left. And that's what he did. He basically played 4 strikers, but 2 of them out wide, and looked to basically get the ball in the box wherever possible. And it worked beautifully. Street maybe didn't have as much of an effect on the right-hand side as House did on the left. But House was superb throughout the game. He scored the first goal with a really nicely taken finish. He was a constant threat against Luton. And Lincoln went with a better side, certainly in the first half. And when Jordan Clark got an equaliser with 15 or so minutes to go, it felt like it was going to be a massive frustration for Lincoln, because they certainly had the opportunities within the game to draw further clear. Draper in particular had one rasping shot tipped over the bar by Keeley, and he's looking very, very lively. I think it's a matter of time before he gets himself in the goals, because he's looking really sharp as we've seen him look for Lincoln. But instead of the head going down after Clark's goal, Lincoln roared back into it. A big crew off the bench with a beautifully taken finish into the bottom right hand corner, before House's good performance got its reward with the second goal. And also, from Skabala's perspective, having that much aerial threat themselves probably negated, or helped to negate Luton's threat from set pieces, which we also know is really strong. And then in McGrandles and Bayliss, they've got 2 technicians in the middle of the park who have both started the season performing brilliantly. So it's all just really working at the moment for Lincoln. And yeah, this was in some ways the test to see if their good results against some of the poorer teams in the league was going to be something they could continue. And they went and put in their best performance of the season, and were certainly deserving of their 3 points.
I'm gonna get a little bit of cold water out, I'm afraid.
Lincoln.
On Lincoln, on Stevenage, for me, going into this pod was celebrate Bradford, Stevenage, Lincoln being the top 3. I think that's a great state of affairs.
And then say they're going to fall away.
Well, and then take a slightly closer look and see whether I think, based on how I see the game, whether they're legit, so to speak. The problem is I've actually got hot tea in this mug, not
very rare for you
not
as well.
cold water.
Not a big tea drinker.
If anything, I'm pouring petrol on flames here because this isn't necessarily what people like to hear. I'm just going to present a few facts, basically. I'm not even really going to say much on top of that.
All right.
Lincoln have the highest ranked team they've played is Wimbledon in 9th. So they're currently 3rd. They haven't played any other teams in the top 8. So I think it's fair to say that to really prove themselves as a top 8 team, let's say, they will need to play and beat those teams. They may well do that. They have not had that opportunity. Clearly, beating Luton, who were favourites for the title, is as impressive as it gets for them this season. As mentioned, it was their most eye-catching win and a really strong display. I would also point out they have faced the most shots in League One this season, which is pretty unusual for the team in 3rd place.
And very unusual for them over the last 18 months as well.
Very unusual for them. They are a passive team out of possession. They do sit and soak, and they're very confident in their ability to do that. They are very good at it. A strong penalty box defending side, particularly with Sonny Bradley there. So again, stylistically, it's not a massive issue. Having said that, opposition teams are only scoring 6% of the shots against Lincoln. And if I know one thing about shot conversion, George, is that at the start of the season, there's all sorts of craziness and extremes at both ends. And then by the end of the season, every team in the league concedes about 9 to 14% of their shots and scores between 9 and 14% of their shots. That's just how maths works. So we can expect that maybe some of those shots will start flying in and things might not look so rosy if that is the case. Going forward, they have the highest shot conversion in League One. So again, they are taking their chances better than any other team. This is all positive stuff. They should be praised for the performance so far. But when we're looking forward, we're looking ahead, we're looking at whether they might be an automatic promotion contender or a top 6 contender. These are some things that will need to probably improve. Stevenage, it's worth pointing out as well, they've only played one team in the top half so far. That was away at Huddersfield and they beat them 1-0. So 4 home wins, but against Northampton, Exeter, Rotherham and Wycombe, some of the poorest teams in the league. Away wins against Vale and Blackpool, obviously very, very impressive. But again, they are going to have much harder fixtures than they have had in their first 8 games soon to come. And that probably brings me back to Bradford and more Bradford positivity, is that they've played 5 of their 9 games against teams in the top half. And they've won 4 of those and only lost at Doncaster. So they really have been stepping up against other strong starters and strong teams at the level. Donny, they lost 2-1 at home to Wimbledon. Don's winning from behind for the 2nd game in a row, which they have not done very much over the last few years. And goals from Rhino and the Hippo.
Yeah. Wimbledon fans on safari in Doncaster. Not many people have done that.
Roving around.
Yeah. For Wimbledon, it's another brilliant result. Johnny Jackson now has his side, was it back-to-back wins in the league, having beaten Rotherham last time out, back-to-back wins in the league coming from behind as well. So as you say, it's been an issue of theirs over the years, or over the last couple of years, squandering leads at crucial times. But at the moment, they're showing a real fight and desire, the intangibles, to get back into games. For Donny, you mentioned a couple of weeks ago ahead of the Bradford game that Doncaster couldn't survive off a diet of just Owen Bailey goals. And then they decided, we're going to get some other players to score. And then it was back to Bailey from a set piece, putting them ahead. Captain fantastic, again showing the movement and the ability to get into the area in the box to steer home. And at that point, after a first half, this was a real first half that happened, like, basically nothing happened in that first half. And he gave a few chances against an opposition who aren't the most free scoring. Donny looked to be in a pretty dominant position to go ahead and win the game. But Johnson with a back post header from a corner made it 1-1, and then Hippolyte profiting from some just really bad play from a couple of Donny players, in particular in particular Lotatalo, who had another dodgy game in goal. It's funny how had a loan at Doncaster 2 seasons ago, was seen by their fans being probably the best keeper in the league, was after a season away, returned to much fanfare and has looked, like his confidence has gone a little bit, and he struggled at times, a couple of mistakes that didn't lead to goals, and then a really poor clearance out to Broadbent, who then kind of shanked his clearance, and the ball was then steered into Hippolyte's path, who was really, really good in terms of the finish into the near post again. So I guess you could say that Lotitala kind of beaten at the near post for both goals, albeit neither obvious mistakes, we should say.
Hippo's been a lovely player for Dons, hasn't he, since like March onwards? Having missed so much of last season.
Yeah.
And, you know, the cliched sort of
Wembley
almost
hero.
They already had a good team, and then he came back from injury and quite quickly became one of their best players, which is really great.
Definitely. And the good thing for Dons is that, you know, the concern had to be whether or not they would maintain their good defensive record from last season, and they have for the most part, albeit as you'd expect, conceding a few more goals. But it was more the issues from an attacking point of view at the back end of last season, which saw their automatic challenge kind of drop away. And yet, with largely the same group of players, obviously the wing backs slightly different, but considering that Neufeld was one of their key attacking players last season. For Asimwe to come in on the right hand side and Seddon with his good delivery from the left, but they are carrying the attacking threat. And again, you know, bias laid bare on the table, but you know the manager has to take massive credit for this. You know, if you're looking at the most managerial achievement, if you're looking for the teams whose success you can point to being just a really well drilled unit rather than individual quality, then Johnny Jackson has to be right up there. And you know, to go from a position where ahead of the playoffs, there are a lot of their fans who were effectively saying that if he didn't take them up, then his time should be up, to now surely when sacking season starts, Jackson's going to be an incredibly attractive proposition for clubs, especially I would say the bottom end of the Championship, where you're going to look for a manager who doesn't necessarily need the ball, who prioritises set pieces, who can take a group of players and go toe-to-toe against maybe more talent on the opposition and still kind of wrestle their way through games. He's doing a brilliant job.
Yeah, his anyone with Jackson stocks has had a sort of Bitcoin-esque, basically, rise.
Got to phone out the truth, me and you'll be absolutely laughing.
Yeah, you can tell I don't know much about either stocks or Bitcoin.
What's Bitcoin up to these days?
I think good. Producer Fred? No, bad. Oh,
what if you bought it like
bad analogy
15 years ago, right at the beginning? You doing all right? Billionaire. There you go. But soon badly.
Yeah, hey, we bought Johnny Jackson manager stocks when he was still playing, practically. Yeah. So there you go.
When he was still playing foot golf, which you got suddenly just deleted the video off our YouTube, which is a shame.
Yeah. The fixtures, by the way, if you're interested, as I've brought up fixtures quite a few times already, Wimbledon have played 7 of their 9 games against teams 11th and above. And they've won 5 out of 9. Not bad.
Sounds good.
All. Wycombe 2, Northampton 0. The first game for Mike Duff, Wycombe manager. Excited to ask what you think about the sacking of Dodds and the appointment of Duff, but this game couldn't have gone much better, really, as first games go. Pure domination, and what started was 6 shots in the first 10 minutes of the game, and then scored on 17. Harvey squeezing one in the near post, nice little dink over the top from Leahy in a well-timed run. The second goal was just a bit of George Abbott magic. This guy, he has the highest average goal quality, pretty much, him and Lewis Wing of anyone, but it's the variety of Abbott's goals, because he can score Lewis Wing bangers, but this was just quick feet in tight spaces, dribbling his way out of a packed telephone box and smashing it into the corner. What did Duff do differently? Well, this was 4-3-3. Dodds had been playing a sort of 3-4-3 type thing. I think it's a pretty classic case of by the end of a managerial tenure, you're trying so many different things to try and get stuff to work. And it can end up looking very jumbled. And then a manager comes in and just goes like, should we just go 4-3-3, lads? I'll put most of you in the positions where you normally play, and let's just see if that helps. And it did much more like it from them. Mike Duff to Wycombe. Is that Elek approved?
Yeah.
Thought it might be.
Yeah, it's a good appointment. I see some of the usual stuff around, he's had 2 bad jobs or 2 kind of failures, Swansea and Huddersfield.
Oh, I forgot about Huddersfield.
Yeah, and therefore the mind is made up that he's now rubbish and he's been found out.
Yeah. You didn't sell any stock though, you're still holding? No,
I still hold Duff stock.
Nice.
But no, he's someone, I think he's shown he's very effective. Certainly the job at Cheltenham was obviously brilliant, but also at Barnsley was very, very good. I think there was a big issue with style of play with Mike Dodds, which certainly the fans absolutely did not buy into at all. With Duff, we've seen at Swansea, I think his undoing was trying to move away from the kind of high energy, direct style. I think that will fit, a return to what he did previously will fit in at Wycombe very well. And I think it's very clear to see that at Huddersfield last season, the issues ran far, far deeper than Duff himself. And even though the run of form that led to a sacking was very bad, they also had some periods of being really, really good under him too. So I think it's having taken absolutely ages to appoint a very well thought of coach with no managerial ability, looking to play a style of football that probably wasn't very suitable to the league and the squad that he was coming into. I think
just quickly, you said no managerial ability, but I think you probably meant no managerial history. And I thought you'd want that clarifying.
Yeah, no managerial history.
Yeah.
Jury's out on the ability.
Yeah.
It's for them to make the decision very quickly to go out and get their man, and to have done so, proven is I think is often a far overvalued commodity, but someone who at least comes with a bit of, I don't know, a proven track record in terms of the way that you can manage a fan base when things are going well, or a bit not when things are going badly. Someone who's achieved some semblance of success in this league. Someone with a style of play that I think is a better fit to the environment he's coming into. I think it's a smart appointment.
Good fit. Well done, everyone. Bolton 4, Wigan 1. George, there was a 10-year period where Bolton didn't beat Wigan. 9 games that was, including 6 Wigan wins, 2 of them by 4-0. So this 4-1 win was both cathartic and good fun.
What a game of goals this was. Love this. Bolton are a team that I am very excited about. If you had to ask me right now, who wins League One? My answer is Bolton Wanderers. I think they're really strong. I think they, the results early in the season maybe didn't come, but the performances were there. When you look at the quality of their attacking quartet, that I think is now we can say pretty happily is going to be the first choice attacking quartet, with Force playing in behind Burstow, with Cozy Dubra on the right, who for him had a much quieter game than what we're used to seeing, but Thierry Gale on the left, who's looking lively and kind of improving performance on performance, as you'd expect, having come into Bolton over the course of the summer. Gale with a really nicely taken first goal, having gone close prior to that. He then created the second goal for Marcus Force. Force, I just think, is going to score an absolute hatful playing for this team. He's such a good finisher. His movement is so good. I think because of him being moved out to playing off the right-hand side for Middlesbrough, I think it's basically been forgotten that he is basically just a goalsman, someone who playing 10 or playing as the more advanced striker is going to score a lot of them and is a very good finisher. Burstow with a sweetly struck effort from outside the box, just cushioning into the bottom left-hand corner. And then Force profiting from some really poor defending. Amerson with a shanked clearance, a couple of those talking about today, that fell into the path of Morgan Fox, who just cushion-headed it into Force's path for him to divert past Tickle. For Wigan, it's a bad day at the office. It's a lot of pretty dependable players playing badly on the same day. Paul Mullen scored a lovely goal to make it 4-1 and give them a little bit of hope with half an hour or so to go. But Bolton saw out the game pretty well. And when you look at their options off the bench as well, where they brought on Sam Dalby, the target man, who basically by no fault of his own isn't really getting much of a chance, having been a big signing for them in the summer. Sissoko coming off the bench too, who we know can be very, very lively. They are a side that I think right now, in terms of performances, consistency, attacking threat, general defensive work, where teams find it very hard to create big chances against them, quality throughout the side, depth, they look to me to be the ones. If there's going to be a curse of this podcast, it's going to be Bolton, because right now to me they look like the team to beat.
Rotherham 0, Stockport 1 in the first half. Not that much in it, but one big chance. Brecky Anderson went clear for Stockport and slid it wide of the post. Very good finisher, who I think generally you would expect to score that. No matter in the second half, Stockport again just managing this game well. I think just a strong away performance from them. And the goal from the foot of Norwood to the head of Wootton, 1-0 up on the hour mark. And they saw it out well. They didn't suffer what they did against Cardiff last weekend, where similarly they put in a decent display, probably deserved a narrow win, only to concede in the 97th minute to Salek. No such issue here, not least because Rotherham are still missing so many players, and particularly some of their best strikers. This kind of needs to be the standard, I think, now for Stockport. The last two performances have been much more encouraging, and things can just settle down, calm down a little bit. The best part of the season so far for Stockport, which clearly has been packed with performances that were under the expectations of Challoner, the fan base, and us. The best part of it is they're on 15 points from 9 games. They're in an 8th spot. They're 5 points off the top. So thankfully, the results were always okay. And that gives them a pretty good foundation if they are to kick on from here. Fevrier, good to see him looking pretty lively down the right-hand side. Another away win was Peterborough's at Plymouth. Back-to-back wins for Posh in the league. Dare I say it? Back to basics. The main reason for it. Darren Ferguson and Peterborough playing a 3-5-2. That does not feel very Darren Ferguson and Peterborough, but it's working pretty well. And not just because defensively, adding that extra body to try and become a team that defends its box a little more seriously seems to be a good call for the here and now, but also because Jimmy J. Morgan and Harry Leonard, their two new strikers, are both providing massive threat at the top of the pitch. Now it's Morgan who's scoring the goals at the moment, and Leonard has been like a sort of mixture of unlucky and poor. Like he had that free kick that he hit which went in off Morgan's bum. Then I think he had a shot that was parried and Morgan tapped in the rebound. Here, Leonard had a penalty save and Morgan scored another rebound, tapped in from a Kyoso shot. So I sort of have that thing where I sort of feel like Leonard is doing as much, if not more, than Morgan to score, but it's Jimmy J that has the 3 goals. And fair play to him. But this was mostly about Alex Bass making probably the save of the season so far in the EFL. Laurent Talai with a close range overhead kick, which Bass managed to somehow get his hands up and tip onto the bar. An astounding save. Argyle will be pretty baffled that they haven't at least drawn this game. Talai still looking very lively, still looking the most likely to score, and has started pretty well in an Argyle shirt, even if he has missed some quite big chances. And just quite a volatile team still so far this season. Argyle had a bad start, had a good couple of results, and now losing at home to the team that were bottom heading into the weekend is not ideal. How about Blackpool 1, Barnsley 0? George, let's file this one under needed.
Very much so. This feels like a huge results and performance, I would say, too, for Blackpool, because in the first half, they were under the cosh for the most part.
Watching the highlights, my main thought was I've just seen 4 highlights of Barnsley chances that this season they've normally been scoring.
Yeah, exactly. McGoldrick, in particular, having one very good chance that was put wide early on in the first kind of 5 or 10 minutes or so. And I think in my mind, Adam Phillips should have had a penalty in the first half as well that may have changed the game. 71% possession for Barnsley in the first half. And get this, 353 passes attempted for Barnsley in the first half, which that is 700 passes over the course of the game. Yeah, that's absolutely loads. That's
loads.
If Man City complete 700 passes in a game, that's a lot.
Wow.
Although at the moment they're completing 150.
Connor Guardiola.
Premier League banter for you there. But they were under the cosh in basically every sense. Territory, chances created. And they slowly but surely ease their way back into the game. And that has been, I think, of any team in the EFL this season, it feels like Blackpool have had the softest centre. They've got themselves into decent positions at times in games and then gone behind and it's all kind of disintegrated. And often I kind of do wonder with managers who kind of been there and done it, who start off well, when things start to go badly, do you see the fact that they don't really need it, like kind of shown in the performance of the players, where there's that lack of urgency? But absolutely none of that here. By the same measure, Blackpool weren't great in the second half at all. Like, it wasn't like they suddenly turned on its head and they created loads, but they came out, they closed down Barnsley much more effectively. They got a foothold in the game. And when the goal came, it wasn't against the run of play. The goal came in the 98th minute. Jordan Brown off the bench with a really nicely taken goal from outside the box and huge scenes in front of their fans, where I think there was an element from the players of saying, okay, we're doing our bit now, lads. So like, let's kick on from here. And you can understand why Blackpool fans up to this point would have been incredibly frustrated at the season so far, given the level of spend in the summer. And it felt like they were one of these teams that had finished mid-table the season before, but were going for it by every measure this summer. So big result for Blackpool, better performance in the second half. Have to use this as a springboard from which to leap, because up to this point the season has been pretty dour.
2 more wins. Reading beating Orient by 2-1. Important result for them. Important result, you'd say, for Noel Hunt. Possibly papering over some cracks still. Let's not worry too much about that for now. Jack Marriott scored a real nice sort of dribbler from range, like 25 yards out. Left-footed shot all along the ground. Not massively powerful, just very well placed on the angle to get past the Orient keeper. Simkin El Miz scored a lovely solo goal for Leyton Orient. He looks back to the player that he was last time he played for Leyton Orient, and maybe not the player that he was playing for the Yellows of Oxford United. But Reading won it. Doyle with the ball across to Fraser to finish. And as I say, it's big for them. The interesting thing from my point of view here is the match stats. You've got Orient with 70% possession at the Madstat. And I need to go back and check Orient's games this season and see if this is like their identity now, that they're going like, for some reason, mega possession heavy. But I don't think that's the case, which means that this is probably slightly to do with Hunt's setup for Reading. And it does make me wonder a little bit what Hunt's Reading identity is, or what he wants it to be, because look, clubs can mix and match, clubs can mix it up, and they don't always have to play the same way. But when I think of Reading in particular, and frankly when I look at their squad, I don't see this being a team that should be having 30% of the ball at home. And that was at scores level as well. That wasn't just because of game state or Orient chasing the game. So I want to keep an eye on that, because it's kind of baffled me a little bit. You've got Lewis Wing, Charlie Savage and Liam Fraser in midfield. And up top, you've got Paddy Lane on the right, Kierawa on the left, and Marriott up top. Like, not the most obvious, we are going to kill you in transition trio either. So we shall see. It's a big win for them. And to finish on a positive, I'm really excited about their right back, Ashkar Ahmed. Seems to have pretty much nailed down that starting spot now. I've heard some very, very good things from people that have watched him live. He only just turned 18 3 weeks ago. So they've got Andre Garcia and now they've got Ashkar Ahmed, incredibly young players who, as is kind of apt, given the recent history of Reading, has been really impressive from a youth development point of view, getting big opportunities. Orient, very up and down, aren't they, this season? Probably to be expected with the squad churn. They've got some big games coming up, actually. Stevenage at home, then Cardiff away, then Doncaster at home. So I kind of assume, because I rate Wellens and Orient can play very well, I assume they'll take some scalps there. If they don't, things could look quite underwhelming after 12 games, I think it's fair to say, for Orient. So something to keep an eye on there. We also got Vale beating Mansfield 2-1. 2 wins in a row for them. Their first 2 of the season, of course. This one thanks to a late penalty from Ronan Curtis. Pushing the back from Will Evans. It looked a little soft, but I don't think you can really argue with it, and it's just very silly from Evans. Mansfield had 10 men for most of this game. Sweeney picking up an early red card for taking down, I think it was Payton who was 3 on goal, and it was just domination from a Vale point of view, but without scoring many goals, really. Devante Cole with his 3rd in 3 games for Vale. What a signing he looks to have been to replace Tolai. And then the equaliser was Reece Oates. Incredible run down the right, going all the way, cutting inside and smashing it in. 2 shots total for Mansfield in this game, of which one was that brilliant solo goal, which again put the onus back on Vale to score the winner. Would they have done so if not for a silly bit of play from Evans? Possibly not. So a bit fortunate there, but getting the win. And Huddersfield 0, Burton 0 was a match that happened.